love you forever, forever. I wanna love you. Will you let me love you forever, forever and a day, 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 day.
You guys, welcome to the Melanated Way. I'm your host, Linda Entwee. We have a very special guest. You guys have been asking and had all the questions about 90 Day Fiancé, Love in Paradise. And Danielle is in the building. Let's welcome Danielle to our show. Welcome, Danielle. Thank you so much for being here and taking the time.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited. I love your show.
Oh, thank you so much.
It's the first one I listen to, I swear.
My followers can be very, very direct, but then you know that I can be very direct as well.
Yeah, I appreciate directness. I appreciate getting to the point. I'm a teacher. I take feedback. Like, I find it very interesting.
We definitely had a lot to say this past season. So as we all know, we got introduced to Danielle in the second season of Love in Paradise. And so my first question to you, Danielle, is how did you get involved with Love in Paradise?
Okay, so I was going on vacation to the Dominican Republic with my aunt and my cousin. And before I left, I saw my friend Sandra. And you had seen her on the show. She was one of the book club members.
Yeah.
She was the one with the glasses. The tallest one. She had said to me, be careful, don't come home with a husband before I went on vacation because I've been single for a few years, but I said within, like about a year before I met Johan that it was time for me to settle down and meet someone for a long term. And she said, be careful, be careful. And so I went on vacation and I met Johan. And one of the nights that I was at the resort, I had been drinking and I texted her super late. I said, uh-oh. I think I'm coming home. I think I met someone. I think I'm coming home with a husband. She said, oh my God, you need to go on 90 Day Fiancé. She said it in the moment. She's like, you've got to be kidding me, Danielle. Fast forward, she had said to me, Johan and I were dating. She had said to me, they're casting for 90 Day Fiancé. I had no idea that I was going to do a K1 visa or I wasn't even thinking anything like that. But she's like, email them. And she sent me the casting information and I emailed and I heard back right away. And like one of my trips to DR, we did a Zoom call and it was actually pretty quick. It was like so quick that I didn't even take the time to process what I was signing up for. I had never seen at that point 90 Day Fiancé. So yeah, so I really had no idea. It was like very, very quick. So before I said yes to the show, I'm like, let me watch the first season and see like what this is all about. And I loved the first season. I thought it was a lot of fun. And then it was like also we were kind of still homebound. So then I just got into like the 90 day rabbit hole and started watching all of them and realized that it's like a black hole of television. There's so much.
There's
and I just
so many
all of them. I didn't even get through everything. I watched like the journeys. And then I became really into it because I love storytelling. Like I'm a history teacher. I appreciate the idea of like using stories to relate to humans. Like it made a lot of sense to me. So I thought it was cool. I thought it was a cool project.
And then, so you get on the show and then all of a sudden there's a bunch of stuff that we're introduced to. So I want to talk a little bit about your belief system because that was one of the things we couldn't really wrap our mind around because like you have a Baba, we thought it was a guru, and then it's like tied into yoga and health and wellness. And we all felt like it was like, what is it?
Yeah, like cherry picking all the things. So I feel like this is such a long story. I think that, first of all, I don't have a religion. I think people always ask me, what is your religion? What religion do you belong to? And I don't belong to a religion. I always answer that question that way. I'm a spiritual person. I believe in honoring my ancestors. I believe in honoring deities from all practices, gods and goddesses from all practices that I have been introduced to, that I feel connected to. I believe in prayer and meditation and physical practice that moves trauma and emotions and energy through the body. Mm-hmm. I believe in engaging with the 5 elements to connect to source and connect to God. I believe in being intentional and conscious about decisions that you're making. So those are my belief systems. Like those are my values. Those are the things that I do.
Mm-hmm.
based on what doctrine or what dogma, I think is where people get stuck, because I think people assume that I kind of follow one thing and then I get bored of it, and then I follow another thing and then I get bored of it, and then I try another thing. Like I just try on all the things and kind of pick what I want and use it. I think that that's how it's portrayed, because this is a show about relationships. It's not a show about spiritual practices. So you're taking everything that I do and everything that I've studied over the last 20 years and you're putting it in a 5-minute clip. And it's just not, I understand why people are confused. I watch that and I'm like, I get it. So I think, what people have to understand is that as a history teacher, I've had the opportunity to study many different religious backgrounds and beliefs and groups and countries and indigenous practices and things from all over the world. And once I moved to New York City and started teaching in New York City from Long Island, which is where I grew up on Long Island, it's like a very suburban white community. It's very isolated. People are born there. They work for their parents. They buy their parents' house. They kind of never leave. Everybody's Catholic. Everybody looks like me. Everybody talks like me. So it's a very isolated community. And when I moved to this city, it was like, I was like, just open to all. Yeah, because I always felt like I didn't belong there. And so when I had my son, when he was in kindergarten and I was getting divorced, I decided we got to get out of here. Like, I can't do another generation of this. I can't be responsible for another generation. This isolation. There's a whole world out there.
Yeah.
So, we came to the city and he's known nothing else but diversity and cultural experiences that I was never connected to as a child. But this was all new to me when I was about 26. And so once I started practicing Bikram yoga as a physical practice. I had a lot of body image issues and a lot of weight issues when I was younger. So like I was always looking for something that would help me get skinny fast. And I'm like, 90 minutes and 105 degrees. This will be a good workout. And that's kind of what brought me to yoga. And I learned very quickly practicing Bikram that this was not just a physical athletic practice. This was a spiritual practice, and that this was about discipline. And when you're practicing Bikram, and sometimes I was practicing twice a day, you can't practice without drinking water. So like you have to change your water intake and drink a lot more water during the day. You don't want to go out for tacos for lunch and then go to a Bikram class. So you have to change your eating habits. So it's like all of the health and wellness kind of followed the yoga practice, because you can't practice yoga if you eat this and drink this. Like it's not going to work. It's not going to feel good in your body. So it kind of like my physical practice directed my health and wellness changes. And then I moved schools. I'm a high school teacher, and I moved to a different high school a little bit further uptown. I wasn't able to get back to Brooklyn in time to take that class. So I joined another yoga studio and learned about all these other different types of yoga styles. Hatha yoga, the philosophy of yoga that Bikram never touches on, just the 8 limbs, the fact that it's not just an asana practice, a physical practice, but that there's 7 other limbs of yoga that aren't necessarily connected to the physical. And then I really just started engaging more with the philosophy and the spiritual aspect of it. And I did my 200-hour teacher training with a man named Yogi Charu and KK Clavio at Pure Yoga in New York City. And Yogi Charu was a bhakti yogi, and he would offer kirtan on Thursday nights at the Bhakti Center in New York City, which I learned later were the Hare Krishnas. I had no idea that they were the same thing.
Oh.
But I learned after I joined a community group at the Bhakti Center that was recommended by this teacher, and we were studying the Gita. And I learned like what the Hare Krishna practice was and what Bhakti Yoga was. And I started working with Krishna and japa meditation. It was the only meditation that ever worked for me because my mind was always going. I learned how to meditate with a mala, and I would volunteer there once a week. And I developed a real solid spiritual community for the first time at the Bhakti Center. And then the pandemic happened. It's an ashram with a bunch of old monks. So it was, they were like, basically, we're locking the doors, and if you're in, you're never leaving, and if you're out, you're never coming in until this is over. And that lasted for like a year and a half. A couple of monks stayed, and everybody else went, and so that community kind of dissipated. Went online. Yeah, that was, I kind of lost myself.
That connection, yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
this is a long story. It's a lot.
Tell me how, because when you whipped out that huge crystal from your suitcase.
Do I have it? Yes, still here.
How, like, Danielle, you travel, obviously. often. Why would you put that huge weight in your bag? Like, we didn't understand.
So this stone is a very special stone to me, this particular one. I have a lot of stones that I work with, but this is a healing stone. And so anytime I am feeling, I'm an empath, so I absorb a lot of other people's energy that also connects to the not wearing black thing. And so whenever, being in New York City, you're like constantly surrounded by crazy fucking energy, right? So this thing repels it. When you're in an airport or an airplane, you're being inundated with other people's energy. Anytime you're in a crowded space. So the best thing, like this is the best stone that I would travel with, because there are practices that I do when I get into my hotel room right after a flight that, you know, involves putting my legs up the wall, saging, cleansing, taking a bath, using a stone. Like, this is a really important stone to me. I know everybody thinks I'm crazy. They're like, you can get a smaller one, but
that's the next thing I was gonna say. Is there not a smaller version of that?
This particular one is just very magical to me. I don't know. People have their things.
Okay, guys, like, I mean, I tried. I asked her. She answered.
I know. I get it. I understand the confusion. I think I'm crazy too.
Well, it's not so much confusion. That's heavy. You get 50 pounds internationally, and I think that is at least what, 4 pounds.
Yeah, I try to keep it in my carry-on so that it doesn't affect my weight limit. That's what I do. I keep all the really heavy things in the carry-on. That's the trick.
Oh my God, okay, so we talked about your yoga beliefs and your belief system. I do want to talk to you a little bit about a retreat you recently had and how that all ties into things. So your company, let me see if I get it right. Libyans. Libyans. So you had a Libyans retreat.
Yes.
Where does that name come from? And tell us a little bit about that retreat, because I did see your post, girl, and it looked like you and Johan were doing all the yoga.
We were doing Zumba.
And then there was like mud and stuff.
It was great. It was really great. Okay, so Live Yinsa is a lifestyle brand. The name Yinsa came from actually a friend of mine and I were grading history papers in New York City. I was teaching yoga at the time, but I knew that I just needed a different direction. I needed something that was like filling my soul, because teaching in New York City was really hard at that particular time. And I was working with essential oils, taking aromatherapy classes, and I was teaching yoga, and she's like, and I was making things for people. Like, someone would get eczema and I would be able to like make something for them. And so it kind of started with me giving things to my friends. And so I teach primarily yin yoga. So Yinsa was like a combination of like yin and essential oils. Okay. And Live Yinsa is the lifestyle element of it. So like incorporating consciousness and intention to every single thing that you do in your life, to the food that you eat, to the way that you move, what your office looks like, where you work, how you commute, what you do before and after work, how many hours you sleep, how much water you drink, like intentional about every single thing that you do in your life. That's the goal, is to start really thinking about all of the things in order to live a more balanced life. So it's through the lens of Ayurveda and the 5 elements and how they are balanced in our bodies.
Wow, that's a lot to think about in one day. Do you like plan your week ahead, or like?
I'm not saying that if I did this all the time, I'd be like levitating. I wouldn't have to be here anymore. It's the goal. It's the goal to not have to do this again. So, we're always aiming for greatness, but we don't think about, okay, you got a headache, right? Yeah. You get a headache, and you take a Tylenol and you keep it moving.
Well, I'm not a pill popper, but so, and I have African parents. So for me, my mom's like, just boil some ginger, put some lemon in.
Well, that's beautiful. Most people aren't doing that. Most people aren't doing that. That's what I want people to be doing.
Got it.
And most people aren't doing that. Most of the people in my world aren't doing that. They were finding the nearest pill and they were keeping it moving.
Yeah.
And you're just like masking the symptoms and you're never curing the root cause. And so today it's a headache, and tomorrow you can't sleep, and the next day you start gaining weight, and then you break out in a rash, and it's like until you have a diagnosable disease, you're not doing anything about your symptoms in order to stop it from getting there. So the lifestyle brand is like addressing all the things in our lives that could be preventative, like using our food as medicine instead of poison. Those kinds of things.
Well, that's a whole other conversation because woof.
Yeah.
Food system now. I want to talk to you, and this is definitely a viewer question, but I had to get it in. Everyone wants to know why you were driving in the Dominican Republic when Johan was the native.
Because I'm a better driver.
You're a better driver?
I'm a way better driver. When we met, he had only been driving for 5 months. Yeah, he had come to pick me up. This is like kind of how we started dating. He drove me and my aunt and my cousin to get Larimar in the Dominican Republic. I had asked someone else to do it. They couldn't do it last minute. I didn't want to go myself. So he had given my cousin his phone number. So I called this guy and was like, if anybody's going to protect us, it's going to be this guy. So letting him take it. He brought his little nephew with him. It was adorable because he was nervous driving by himself.
Oh, wow.
So, and I've been driving in New York City, so it just always made more sense for me to drive. And then he got into a car accident. Like, just because he like did something stupid. So then I insisted on driving after that.
Well, there you go, you guys. Now we know.
Yeah.
Now, can you explain the whole... Okay, so can we talk about Baba?
Yes, that was the other half of my really long story.
Yes.
So during the pandemic, I had like a, I don't know if you'd call it like a dark night of the soul, but it was the first time in my life that I was ever not playing a role, like going and doing. It was just kind of locked in my house and I had to sit with my shit. And I went through like a lot of really dark things. I moved to Miami for 5 months.
During the pandemic?
During the pandemic. Yeah, because I couldn't be in New York. It was just so sad and depressing. And it was just, I couldn't do it. So my friend was living in Florida. I went down to Florida. My assistant came with me. And I was living with one of my friends, and it was beautiful. And it was like, I walked to the beach and meditated every morning. I lived a very healthy life. And you know, there was no COVID in Florida. I don't know if you know that. But like,
I mean, we already know that there was no COVID in Florida.
There was no COVID in Miami, so we kind of went on with our lives.
Right.
And when I came back to New York, I kind of had to, a lot of my life fell apart. And I got an email in the middle of the night when I couldn't sleep. I was like really going through it. And it was from Jessica, who you saw on the show. And it was an offering of a misa. And I had no idea what a misa was, but I signed up. It was like, you know, I don't even know what I paid for it at 4:00 in the morning, but it was like I registered for this thing, and it was to come in and elevate your ancestors and the spirits, your spirit guides that you're working with in the spiritual realm. And I had no idea what I signed up for. It was located up at Baba's Shrine, and I showed up at Baba's Shrine. It was a lot of women in all white. I had to sit in a circle. And there were some rituals and practices that we did, and it was really transformational for me. A lot of things came up and came out that I had to address. A lot of trauma that I didn't know about, a lot of things that I had forgotten about that I thought I had worked on. And it was almost like, I don't know, my insides were ripped out. I just felt very, very raw. And so I started working with a lot of different healers, somatic therapy, and Jessica under her mentorship. And she introduced me to Baba for divination. So the practice that you saw and the Ifa that you saw is a divination practice. So divination is like pulling tarot cards or using a pendulum or a candle reading. These are all types of divination, using, you know, as a medium. So they use a chain with Natsana and they throw it in a particular way, and how it lands tells a story or an odu that connects to what I'm experiencing. And it also is a way for him to connect to spirits and, you know, as a way to offer guidance. I believe that whenever you ask an entity, any entity, when you flip a coin and say heads the beach, tails the park, and you get heads and you don't go to the beach, you're fucking with energy. That is my belief system. And so when Baba offers, when I go to someone and ask for advice and they offer it to me, I listen. But
you didn't really listen, Danielle, did you?
I believe I did. Do you think I didn't? Tell me how I didn't.
Well, because he had doubts about Johan, right? And he said, you have to do, and we'll get into this whole banana tree egg situation, all the stuff. but like you didn't pay attention to any of the doubts. You just were like, okay, I'll do the banana tree thing and keep it pushing. Like you didn't even take 5 seconds to be like, oh, he's saying that there is an issue.
So what he said,
Danielle, I watched it, but go ahead.
So that divination was like an hour and a half long. You saw, I think, a very short piece of it. And I think that what was missing, and will answer a lot of your questions, is that the first thing he says to me about Johann, when we talked about a lot of things, but specifically about Johann, was that he is my Shango. And Shango is an Orisha. What's that, Shango?
Yeah, what does that mean?
So Shango is an Orisha of the Ifa tradition, of the Yoruba culture. An Orisha is like a god or a deity, similar to like an archangel, kind of the Christian practice. So Shango is a very big, strong man. He's the god of thunder and lightning. He is Johann. Like if you look at an image of Shango, you should pull one up for your fans, and you look at an image of Johann, you see him. And now Baba had never
seen. How do I spell Shango while you're telling me this story?
Shango, you'll find it.
Shango.
Yeah.
Go on.
But Shango is very charming, and Shango is very smooth, and Shango is a womanizer because he can get away with it. But he's still a deity. And so in order to honor Shango, you offer Shango bananas. You offer Shango eggs. You offer Shango, things that he appreciates in order for him to return the favor. That's not in like it's a trade-off, but in the same way you bring an offering to a church, you light a candle for someone, or you bring flowers, you send flowers to a funeral. Like these are offerings for spirit. Okay. You're doing the same thing when you plant a banana tree. It sounds funny to, non-Abrahamic people, that, to people who consistently practice the Abrahamic faith. They're like, what do you mean planting a banana tree? Yeah, that's my baby.
So here it is, you guys. I'll pull up another one so you can.
I like that. That top middle one is my fave.
Which one?
That one. We just said nope to the left.
This one?
Yeah, that's my fave Shango image. Yeah. I have a machete that kind of looks like that to represent Shango at my altar.
Oh my God.
This is for Shango. And this is, these are in the same way people have, I don't know, what do people have? Rosaries? Or crucifixes with bleeding Jesuses all over.
Yeah, okay, that's fair.
Right? My grandmother had a bleeding Jesus. When I sat on the toilet, I saw a bleeding Jesus hanging on a cross in front of me. And nobody thought that was weird, right? Nobody said shit about that. It was in every room in the house. Everything I did was a fucking sin. Like everything. I was just constantly sinning and looking at bleeding Jesuses, and no one said shit. And this guy walked on water and no one said shit. But now if we're looking at something that's different, everybody's like, what do you mean bananas?
Okay, so first of all, I mean, obviously you're in the Dominican Republic. So you went banana tree shopping? Is that what happened?
Yeah, it wasn't easy to find a banana tree.
And then, so let's talk, so the banana tree, and then I don't remember Baba saying anything about these eggs.
Yeah.
Did you add that on your own?
Yeah, he had listed a lot of things. I don't think everything made the cut. Baba said a lot of things. Okay. Like there was no way all of that was going to fit. But yeah, eggs was part of it.
Okay. So then he said, and then so your offering went into like the water or whatever, right?
I think I put sunflowers in the water probably. Or did I put fruit in the water? Yeah, I think I put fruit in the water. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you're offering to Oshun also, who is the goddess of fertility. And she rules the river. And so some of those offerings were for Oshun.
Okay. Now, does the tree get planted and then it just grows? Was that the whole?
Ideally, we should go look for it. We haven't looked for it. We really should go look for it. But that's the goal, is that it grows.
Okay. Now, is Johan on board with your belief system? And so it's two parts.
Johan humors me in all ways. You will never know what Johan is actually on board with and what he isn't, because okay, amor is like Johan's MO. So he might think I'm completely out of my mind.
Well, he did
might
say that. Didn't he call you a witch?
Yeah, that's like limited language. I think that's sort of limited language. You know, like everyone who's not a Christian is a witch. You know, that's kind of how it works here. I don't know if you know anything about the Dominican Republic culturally, but it's a Catholic state.
Yeah.
We are in a Catholic state.
Yeah.
Like I went to a graduation, a high school graduation a couple of weeks ago, and it was 2.5 hours long, and it was a mass. It was like we stood up, we sat down, we stood up, we sat down, we sang hymns. Like it was a whole ass mass.
Mm-hmm.
Of course he believes what he believes. How could he not?
But so then so I guess my second part of the question is, you know, moving forward and possibly having children with him, like how will those children be raised? And you'll know I'm asking this question because on my show, I say there are 4 things that you need to talk about before you get in a serious relationship. So you need to talk about sex, how important it is to you, what you expect when you're in a long-term relationship. You need to talk about finances, how you save money, how you spend money, how important money is in your relationship. You have to talk about religion or faith or what you believe or don't believe. And then you have to talk about children, whether you want children or you don't want children. And so if you're going to, let's hypothetically say, you know, move forward and have children, and you two both believe completely different things, then how did those children get raised?
I would say that we're constantly talking about that. I think one of the things that has to happen is Johan needs exposure to things that are different from what he knows. I think that's the first thing. And so the more time we spend together, the more time you're talking about someone who didn't watch television, like doesn't know what a reality show is, no frame of reference for that. So like he has to be exposed to what's out there and what the options are, and like really ask himself what his beliefs are before he can get there. And I think, you know, you would have to ask him what he thinks, but I think I'm confident that we will continue to have conversations about it and that we'll come to some kind of consensus, because I think that we're both very understanding of the fact that we come from different worlds. Like it's not just glaringly obvious to all of you, it's also glaringly obvious to us. Like we get it. So we try to talk about things as much as possible.
Now, one of the things that my followers really enjoyed about you is you learning his language, so you knowing enough Spanish to kind of get by. And, you know, I said she should know a little bit of Spanish, at least because she's from New York, right? And you have all the Latin cultures in New York. So was that intentional on your part, or did you already know? Because, you know, also you're a teacher, so I'm sure that you get exposed to all the diversity.
Well, I'm a teacher in an international school, so not one of my kids speak English. So I'm very used to having to translate into 1,000 different languages all the time. So that's part of it. Part of it is I spent like almost 10 years working in restaurants in New York, and in the kitchens in restaurants in New York, everyone speaks Spanish. So if you can speak Spanish as a server or a bartender, you're kind of fucked. So you learn some conversational Spanish, and everybody talking about you. You learn like Spanish curses, you know, you learn all of those things. And so, teaching in New York City, I think just listening to people speak, I have a lot of Dominican friends. You know, I would say most of my friends are either Puerto Rican or Dominican, so they speak Spanish. So I think it's just like being immersed. Everybody thinks, you know, that everybody around me is an English speaker, but that's not actually the case. There's a lot of people around me who speak Spanish. I just would never speak it at home. Like, no, everybody who knows me in real life, who watch the show, they're like, what the fuck? This bitch speaks Spanish? Like, how? Where did that come from? Because I never do. But I do with my students because I have to. And, you know, in like situations where I need to help someone in a supermarket, I'll do it because nobody will call me gringa. But, you know, otherwise I kept my mouth shut. I'm like, nope, I don't know what you're saying. I have no idea. But now I can't really get away with it.
Well, no, the secret's out of the bag now. All right, we need to talk about, first of all, you look beautiful for your ceremony.
Thank you.
It was a little confusing to us, though, because, and I know I was hard on you, Danielle, and I I'm not apologizing. It was just confusing to me. So I would love for you
No, I get it.
to clear it up. So you walk to the beach. Johan's family is there. You both look amazing. And then it was a little curious to me that you just stopped. You guys turned to face each other. You said some words. And I was like, but oh, wait, are we watching the wedding right now? Like, there's no officiant. Like, oh, let me rewind this and see what exactly has gone on here. And then not only was there no officiant and you guys were both like speaking at each other, then you took your beautiful dress and you both went into the water. I have questions. So go ahead. Why was there no officiant and what was that about?
So we actually had a civil ceremony in a civil office in the Dominican Republic in like a shopping mall. This was very funny. I'm sad that it didn't make the cut because they couldn't get the releases for the judge. But so we did get married at like what the equivalent of a town hall wedding would be. And then I wanted us to be able to exchange vows on the beach. So that's what you saw is just an exchange of vows.
But you know that it's looked crazy, right?
I 100% understand. Okay. I think it was funny. I'm glad that people had questions because it made a lot of sense to have questions. But yes, I have a whole marriage certificate. I am really married. It is sealed and stamped. And there was a judge who officiated us. But everything about bureaucracy in the Dominican Republic is really, really challenging. And so every time we try to do something, it's like more money, more money, more money.
Oh yeah. I mean, my family's from West Africa and it's the same thing. Anything that it has to do with anything bureaucracy, I'm going to need some type of tip for it to go to the front of the line. I'm going to need another, 10 CD because I need to make a copy of this. What do you mean you need to make a copy? It's right there in your hand. Anyways.
Yeah, no, that's kind of how it is. And then when you do all the things, like at the end, they're like, never mind. You can't have it. Yeah. Whatever it is, you can't have it. Yeah. So there's nothing, and there's no recourse. So you just kind of have to take it.
I'm so glad you cleared that up because, I was looking at you crazy.
I know. I'm so glad I have the opportunity to because I wanted to tell all of the people. It's like, please let me explain.
I'm so glad too because this is making a lot more sense, right? And it also goes into your whole belief system and how you live your life and your intentionality and all of that stuff. So I'm glad because I did think that you were a little bit out there, and I said it, and I don't feel bad because
I didn't have to. No, it's your job.
I didn't know at the time, and so now you filled me in, and I feel a lot more wisdom for the situation. Now, your whole experience and kind of being a public figure now, how is that for you? Are you recognized wherever you are, wherever you go?
I've been in DR for the summer because I was prepping for my retreat. People here will recognize us every once in a while. Not as often as I think it would happen as if I was in New York, but it's never weird. People are never rude or disrespectful. They're always super sweet. I would say on the internet, just recently, I would say just within the last couple of weeks, have I gotten like a handful of not very nice DMs or like someone saying something stupid in a live, like one-offs, not really the majority of it. So I don't know if I'm experiencing it or like not experiencing it because I'm not there. I'm not in the States, but I would say not really a lot has changed. It kind of feels the same.
Okay. That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. So are you, because I know you wanted to have more of a work-life balance. Do you feel like you've achieved that or you're moving towards that more so now than ever?
So right now I'm on sabbatical. And so that makes it a lot easier to have work-life balance. What I'm going to do in the future when the sabbatical is over, I have absolutely no idea. Right now, I'm just trying to breathe and settle in and figure out where I want to be and what I want my life to look like. Mm-hmm. If I feel like not teaching and just really like putting my all into my brand and the work that I do with, adults is fulfilling enough. And, I don't have to sit in meetings that I don't want to be in. I don't have
Okay.
to deal with like an oppressive system that I don't want to be a part of. Like there's a lot of shit that I don't have to deal with when I own my teaching.
Yeah.
And so if I can figure out a way to eat while owning all of my teaching and owning the work that I do and only doing what I love, then that's what I want to do. So
Now-
that's the goal.
I didn't mention this, but I need to ask, the necklace you have on, what is that? Did you make that?
No, this was a gift from a teacher that I worked with. It's agate, pink agate. It's
Yeah, it's really pretty.
Thank you. Yeah, it's one of my faves.
Yeah, it's really, really pretty. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to speak with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so glad I finally got a chance to chat with you.
Yeah, me too. Me too. You clear up so many things, and you're so lovely. So I really, really do appreciate it. You guys definitely need to make sure to check out her brand, Libyans.
Pretty
Right?
good. Libyans, pretty good. Pretty good.
Check out her brand, you guys, and make sure you are following her all across her social medias. Danielle, what's your social media handle?
Libyans.
Well, there you go.
Livyinsa.
There you go. Follow her on social media, guys, and I hope to see you very, very, very soon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Bye.